What's going on, everybody? Jarryn Bingham here. Wanted to let you know a couple of things before we jump into the episode. First, we weren't able to capture the audio for this specific episode, so what you'll be hearing is the camera audio for this episode. I truly do apologize, but just know that that is the only episode in this season that we had that difficulty with. Secondly, this specific book that I will be discussing in this episode deals with a lot of abuse, a lot of trauma, and it deals with murder. And so if those topics can trigger you in any way, you've been warned. Stay in the book or stay out the way. Enjoy this episode. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Cover2Cover Podcast. I am your host, Jarryn Bingham. In today's episode, we discuss the true crime story, the mystery, the thrills, the ups, the downs, the murders in Gregg Olsen's 2019 true crimes book, If You Tell. Not Gregg Olsen, I'm sorry, Gregg Olsen. Gregg, if you ever listen to this podcast, forgive me for that misstep. But yes, we discussed If You Tell by Gregg Olsen. This is a story about, essentially about sisterhood, three sisters who grow up in this home and they witness torture and abuse by their mother, Shelly. Not only are they abused, but there are people who come into their house that are abused as well. And with me to discuss this book, I have my good friend, my homeboy, my guy, Morris Austin. How you doing, my boy?
Man, I'm great. How you doing?
All is well, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's top of the summer.
Yeah.
Hot. You know what I'm saying? Atlanta is doing what it normally does. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like 90s across every day, all week. So
And it's just beginning.
Yeah. The first day of summer was literally what, a week and a half ago?
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's not even supposed to be our hottest month. They say August is our hottest month.
Yeah, man. August is definitely one of the hotter months. We did that, so we be doing those obstacle course races. When we did that, we did one last year called Raymond.
Yeah.
We did that one in August, and I ended up dehydrated, had to get 2 IVs. It's crazy. Yeah.
I heard about you, man. Every time I watch your story, I get jealous because I want to be out there.
Oh, you're talking about in general? Wait, shoot. I guess the next one we're doing, you want to do the PC Road race with us, July 4th? Of course not.
July 4th. I may not be ready to do the July 4th.
The next time we'll do a obstacle course race is going to be September 21st. It's going to be Savage Race. Gotta get you up there for another paintball one though.
I think definitely, man. Last time I did paintball was a minute ago in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And it was fun.
Yeah.
Like I told you when I went out there, we barely had on any gear. We were studying.
It was out there. You remember Sosa?
Yeah.
Sosa was out there. Yeah, of course you remember Sosa.
Yeah.
Sosa was out there, man. Sosa, if you ever listen to this podcast, well, I was painting that boy up, boy. I was painting that boy up, bro. He gonna deny it, but yeah, bro. Let's go ahead and get into this thrill, man. If You Tell by Gregg Olsen. Like I said, man, this was a story essentially about sisterhood. But the first question I wanted to hit you with was, why in the world did you pick this book out of all of the 130 million books in the world?
Man, this book right here, I got a thing about the murder stories, you know what I mean? And of course, being a true story, it jumped out to me. Yep. And I said, okay, let me dive into this. And I've heard a lot about Gregg Olsen. And if you read a lot of Gregg Olsen's books, he's very particular with time frames.
Yeah.
And everything. So I like that. I like a factual, all right, June, all right, September, and just walk you down the line through the timeline. And I said, let me grab this real quick. I felt a little type of way at first. I said, do I really want to dive into a book about sisterhood? Yeah. I'm not on my women's rights thing right now, but I support all of you ladies that believe.
Yes, please don't give me cancer.
I support.
Especially black.
Yeah, come on now. So once I delve into, I think I dove in, when I first pulled it up, it was a 10-hour read.
Yeah.
When I first pulled it up, and then probably the first 2 hours in, I was hooked.
Yeah.
I was hooked the first 2 hours, and I said, yeah.
Well, while you were hooked, I was shook. Because I was just like, the book is, it starts off, and Shelly, who's the mother, Shelly, it starts off showing Shelly's childhood.
Yeah.
Her mother was an alcoholic. You know, it was so detrimental to the family that her father ends up taking Shelly and, you know, her rest of her siblings, and they move. Mother ultimately gets with another alcoholic, then gets murdered in a motel. This is all while Shelly was 5.
Yeah.
And so it opens it up by showing Shelly in her, you know, kind of her formative years, growing up. She's of course very reckless, very manipulative, and you know, just acting out in ways. But you know, because you know her childhood is just very difficult. It was even at one point in the book, this is kind of shocking. She falsely accused her father of raping her at the age of 15.
Yeah.
And her father was well respected in the community, but of course, you know, with allegations like that, even though they were completely false, it ends up tainting his reputation. So, you know, just kind of giving the backstory to those. And of course, you know, when you type into an episode of the Cover to Cover, we're going to be filled with spoilers. But after her dad and the stepmom, Laura Watson, who's the pseudonym at the time, after, you know, they kind of just realize they can't get any control of her, they ship her off east to some family. She ends up, you know what I'm saying, like growing up there a little bit more, finds her first husband. She ends up having 3 husbands in her entire life. Finds her first husband and convinces him to move back to the West Coast, back to Washington, where she has the first of her children, Nikki. And so that was part 1. And so you just kind of like, you're seeing, like, Gregg did a real good job, just kind of like you said, like the timeline, painting everything out.
He did.
But yeah, so it's, you know, you hit me with the question. You said that your opinion of the book changed as I was reading. No. No, like the entire time reading it, I was so furious because, again, I was like, at least looking for some type of small win.
Yeah.
And it just felt like every chapter was some form of torture, some form of abuse, some form of just complete negligence on Shelly's end, especially as she's getting older and she's stepping deeper into motherhood. But yeah, so let me ask you that question. Did your opinion of the book changes? You said 2 hours in you were hooked. How did your opinion go?
Yeah, Gregg set the table for us because Gregg is basically mapping out, like you said, the childhood. The family was, to me, obviously very wealthy. You know what I mean? I don't think Dad was really, you know what I mean, hands-on with Shelly too much. And they just start noticing all these problems with Shelly immediately.
Yeah.
And it poses you while you're reading the book. You're like, once you start hearing one thing after the other, and you're like, why is this girl so bad? Like, why is she, like, why is this, like, in her?
Yeah.
And then Gregg just starts walking you down that road, and you start to think to yourself, oh Lord, I don't think it's gonna get better.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna be perpetual behavior. Wait till this girl gets older. You know, if you gotta get shipped off by your parents at a young age, then you start to, so my opinion, in my head, I'm already thinking as I'm reading, yeah, it's gonna get worse. Yeah, it's gonna get a lot worse.
Yeah.
Because nobody's, I mean, what do you do with a little girl like that? To be honest with you, let's bring it present day. If you have a little baby girl, you know, we kind of coddle our baby girls. We kind of let them run free, so just fathers.
Yeah.
And this is just my opinion. And I'm a disciplinarian, you know what I mean? But I just have a son.
Yeah.
But I can just imagine if I had a daughter. Yeah, she can probably do it. She can probably run all over the top of me. She probably definitely can.
Yeah.
And she's in the house with her father and then a stepmother. You know, so stepmother's position is like, you know, I don't really want to, you know, put my hands on your daughter. I don't even want to do this. But your daughter's a problem.
Yeah.
So I can just imagine her thought process dealing with Shelly. Like, your daughter is off the chain.
And we saw that like all throughout the book where Laura, who was the stepmother, you know, she just knows. Like every time, even when she was visiting after Shelly had grown up and stepped into motherhood, especially when she had all 3 of her children. Laura was always kind of like checking in on the kids and just like, she just knew certain things were wrong. Like, I come to the house, everything's clean, everybody's smiling, but like something just doesn't feel right here. And so it at the end of the book, Gregg has this book club discussion guide. And so it lists some of these questions. And so I want to ask you one of the questions that stuck out to me. Dave Knotek, who is Shelly's third husband. Dave Knotek was the husband that really stuck with it. The other two husbands, they got in, they were like, okay, this is a beautiful redhead, like, you know, good fiery energy. And then they just realized, like, oh, this bitch is crazy.
Yeah.
And so, you know, divorce papers and we out. And they just like left the kids and everything was crazy.
Yeah.
But Dave Knotek was the third husband. He was actually a Vietnam vet. They had met at the top of the 1980s, got married at 89, had their first kid, Nikki. So Dave Knotek concedes he was a weak man and didn't know how to stop Shelly from her relentless abuse. Do you feel any sympathy for Dave at any point in the story?
No, I don't feel no sympathy for Dave. I just couldn't, man.
I'm here, I'm listening.
Bruh. Okay, I get it. The book colors and maps out and draws out Shelly's beauty.
Yeah.
I get it. A beautiful woman can make you do some things.
I saw, and even in the documentary when they showed pictures of her, I was like, okay, she's very beautiful.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah, Gregg spared no expense
Yeah.
talking about the beauty and the curves
Yeah.
of Shelly. But at the end of the day, bro, grab your, come on now. and handle your business, bro. Like, don't let this woman run over time. And that's what she did.
Yeah.
She ran over top of this man, and even when it came to the kids,
Yeah.
like when it came to punishing the kids, she'll be like, "Hey, do this," and sit back and watch. And he didn't have no voice,
Which was crazy because I'm like, dog, you were in Vietnam. Like, you've been through hell and back.
What that?
And but when I was watching the documentary of him, or the documentary of the overall story, and I saw him in the police interrogation room, and they were talking to him, you could just kind of tell that. How can I say this without truly being offensive? I don't want to say he was, you know, a little slower in the head.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was just kind of okay. Like, mentally, he was just a mentally weak person, in my opinion. Which, you know, I had a little bit of sympathy. If we could put it on a 100 percentile, I probably had like maybe 5% sympathy for him, just because. Damn, why did I have sympathy for this guy?
You gotta ask yourself now.
Yeah, because they were like, now that I even like revisit some of like the stories, like even certain things that Shelly would have him do. So one of the punishments that Shelly would inflict, not just on the kids, but on other people who stayed in the house, is she would make Dave go outside, spray water in a certain spot to make it muddy, then make the people, either the children or the boarders, as they were called, strip down naked and wallow in the mud while Dave sprayed them. And I'm like, all right, bro, like, your conscience not kicking in at any point, just being like, and he'd sit back and say, hey, this isn't right, that, and the third. But again, like you said, like, bro, grab him, bro, like, grab them and be a man about it.
And you have daughters.
You got daughters.
These supposed to be your baby girls, and even though your wife is yelling, kick them, Dave, kick them. You know what I mean? Make her wallow. Like, bro, at any point, you can't just like, nah, not my baby girl.
Yeah.
Like, nah, I'm not doing this. Like, what type of hold does a woman have to have on you? How manipulative does she has to be? Like, what is she doing so well that you
Give us keys.
what? Like, come on.
Yeah,
bro.
you're right though.
That's why I couldn't have that 5%. Oh, you gave 5, I give him 1, man.
And even then, like even the way he was going about his work, because he was a carpenter when he was a carpenter. Then he ends up getting into construction, and like the way the book describes it, he lived like 6-7 hours away from his work site. So he was gone for the whole week, and you know they were saying at times he was sleeping in his truck. He'd drive all the way back home, and you know at any time Shelly told him to, and you know would just kind of not only witness but participate in a lot of these torture acts.
Yeah.
He even to the point where, and we'll definitely dive into this later on, but his nephew Shane.
Yeah.
Shane was one of the people who ended up staying in the house along with the 3 sisters. Shane came into the picture at the age of 12. Similar background to Shelly, to whereas, you know, very conflicting childhood, abusive. I think his dad was the alcoholic in this one. But Shane, you know, was just being passed around through different families because he was just, you know, he just couldn't get his act together. Yeah. And, you know, he just had a lot of demons that were kind of just following him and, you know, forcing him to do certain things in his formative years. So then, you know, boom, you know, he comes and stays with Uncle Dave and, you know, his three young cousins and Aunt Shelly. And poor Shane, man. And it's a question that I'm going to ask later on, in which Shane is my answer to it. But Shane was the one who I kind of like really felt for the most. But I'm going to hit you up with our next question.
Come on.
Before we jump into Shane. So the next question is, two of the sisters, Tori and Sami, have forgiven their father and still see him regularly. Do you think you could forgive someone who committed such heinous acts?
Wow. I would say yes.
Okay.
Just based off, you know, how Morris was raised. You know, I was raised. Forgiveness is important. You know, I believe that it's truly even hard to move forward in your life if you don't kind of, you know, handle those demons, have those conversations, and actually, there's no easy button for this.
Yeah.
Right? Make no mistakes.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is not for the weak. However, I think it will give you a better quality of life for yourself. Forgiveness is for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not for them. Please, because you can forgive somebody and understand that we can't reconcile.
Yeah.
Like we can't have a relationship moving forward. And sometimes reconciliation can go forward, but when it's a family member like that, and I'm very close to my mom and my dad, so if anything, man, I would definitely want to fix that.
Yeah.
And definitely want to have that. So yeah, I could.
It's funny, I'm on the opposite side of that.
Uh-oh.
And not even so much so, because I agree with everything that you said. I mean, it's, in my own life, I found that I've hindered my own personal and spiritual growth because I lacked forgiveness, or I haven't forgiven certain people in my life.
Yeah.
But man, like when I was reading this, like if I was one of the sisters, after them niggas was shipped out to jail and prison, bro, like, all right, cool. But you know, it's still one of those things where it's like, even as you move forward with your own family, you know your kid's gonna ask you questions about your childhood.
Yep.
And you know, I guess to a certain extent, you know, you like you said, in order to truly see that growth, you have to take those steps towards forgiveness. And that's why it would have been very difficult to me, especially, like I said, you guys have to read the book because the level of torture that was just taking place. I remember, you know, a lot of times it was, you know, sticking their wounds or pouring boiling water on their open wounds and bleach. She tried to poison one of her kids. I believe it was Tori, by making her drink some bleach. It was crazy. Or popping pills and just a bunch of crazy things. You know, sticking your children in sheds for days at a time, starvation. Couldn't use the bathroom unless you asked. Like, just certain things you read, and it's just like, oh, this, and it wasn't just like, you know, oh, this is going to only happen for a couple of hours. Like, no, nigga, you're not going to be able to use the bathroom for the rest of the week, and it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
And so, you know, props to the sisters for being able to find the maturity within themselves and even the peace within themselves to forgive Dave's father, because you know, your mother, she's doing whatever she is, but to see Dave, you know, the father figure in the picture, just be so compliant the entire time, that would have been problematic for me. And so that's why, like I said, it would have been difficult for me to forgive to a certain extent, just because, like I said, you know, when you're aiding and abetting Shelly all the time, and you know we're innocent, defenseless children. I don't really care what you got going on. I need you to kind of step up to the plate.
That's why I thought it was rightfully so for him to get, and he probably should have got more, but to give him at the end, like about 14 years.
Yeah, he got 14. I think she got 22.
Yeah. And it's like, bro, what surprised me, and I know we probably dive into it, that even Sami having such a heart,
yeah.
you know, not wanting, like she was still like sending stuff to her mom.
In prison, bro.
In prison.
And the older sister, Nikki, was not, she was upset when she found out.
Nikki was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Do you understand what she did to us? What we, like, that, I did get angry when I did read and I heard that. I was like, Sami, what are you doing?
It's interesting. How many siblings do you have?
So, I have two.
Okay.
I have an older sister and a younger sister.
Okay. I asked that because when I was reading, I was like, okay, firstborn, middle child, last one.
Yeah.
Of course, the last one, Tori, she didn't receive as much of the abuse as the oldest, Nikki, did.
Right.
And so when you mention Sami, I'm a middle child. Like when you mention Sami, I'm just kind of like, I feel like certain middle children are like stabilizers of the family.
Mm-hmm.
Like we kind of like want to establish as much peace as possible while everybody's kind of tugging back and forth. We kind of feel like we're literally in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And so I think that was one of the reasons she had such a heart for her mom, was because just some type of middle child syndrome or whatever that hasn't truly been studied yet or has been studied, and I haven't really dove into it yet.
It might be something that you might be on to something, because I do find myself with my sisters being the one that always tries to bring everybody together.
Mm.
Like I'm always the one who makes the phone calls and say, hey, let's do this, let's get together, let's do this, while they're all just living their lives.
Yeah, yeah.
So peacemakers and
Yeah.
all of the above. But yeah, Sami, even in the book, she was the one who knew how to play the role to trying to get out of trouble, because she knew what certain things would set Shelly off, and so she would kind of play. But she had a heart. She would sit there with tears in her eyes while Nikki was going through what she was going through, while she was watching, other stuff. And there's no like barometer of the magnitude of torture that you could really measure. You really have to read this book, but it's really inhumane that the mother would do some of the things, and then the father just sit there and just kind of just go along with it, like whatever. And it's kind of like sad, because these women probably never grew up watching a strong man.
Oh, absolutely not.
Like
Absolutely not.
They don't know what it looks like. So imagine when they, and obviously they had relationships, and they talked about Sami getting married and Nikki and everything. Imagine the type of man that they pick and choose based off the father figure. They just saw this weak man growing up every single day, and they had nothing but pity for him. They would be getting tortured, look up in their dad's eyes and see the pain in his eyes, but he has no voice, and he's not saying.
He has no soul, no spirit.
He's not putting it into it.
Yeah.
So that, man.
All right, cool. We're gonna jump into this next question. This next question introduces one of the other boarders, or one of the other people who came into the house, Kathy.
Mm-hmm.
Kathy was a hairdresser in Raymond, Washington, where this entire story takes place. Fell on some hard times, left a horrible relationship, and she really needed a friend. Shelly, I know we've been talking pretty extensively about how horrible Shelly was. Shelly's reputation in the community was loving, caregiver, would do anything for anybody, shirt off the back. So from the outside looking in, everybody loved Shelly. So Kathy, of course, who was, like I said, she was falling on hard times, just needed a friend to help pick her up, comes and lives with Shelly and the family, and quickly understands, or not quickly, there's probably, I think, a couple of months, understands that, okay, this isn't what I thought it was, which leads me to the question. Kathy tried to escape several times, but returned either willingly or under the force of Shelly's influence. Why do you think she always went back? Kathy, by the way, was 36 years old.
Yeah, she was characterized as like Shelly's best friend.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happens, but obviously that relationship has a hold on Kathy. And to me, it's just the word that comes to my mind that describes Kathy was loyal. Mm. Kathy was very loyal, even though she was being tortured, like she was being tortured. Like, all right, it's one thing to watch certain things happen to the kids.
Yeah. I'm
coming in the house, living with you, and now I'm getting this treatment. And like you said, these folks, like, they were running away.
Yeah.
So I'm running away, but still coming back willingly. But I would never get inside the mind of that. I would never understand that.
Yeah.
Just like I would never understand domestic abuse when a woman is being abused by her husband. And I would sit down and ask, why did you stay? I guess I would never understand that mindset, you know. And same goes for this. I would love to sit in front of Kathy, you know, today, which I can't because eventually y'all are reading the book, spoiler alert, she's killed.
Yeah.
But like why? Why stay? Why take the abuse?
Man, I feel like when you become so dependent upon somebody mentally, it's almost like slavery, where, you know, you had slaves that were just far more physically imposing than the slave master. But when you take that mind, it don't really matter. Like it's almost like a pet in a certain way, where like the pet may go off, but it knows we're homeless.
Yeah.
And like I said, Kathy had nothing by the time she came over to Shelly's house, and so I kind of like agree with what you're saying. Like I feel like Shelly just had this way of manipulating people and just really like snatching their mind. You know, a redhead. I've never messed with a redhead. But yeah, man, it was just Kathy's. Some of the things she made Kathy do, she made Kathy strip naked and clean up the house and clean outside the house. Mm-hmm. Same situations, any types of, and she starved to it. There was pictures of when I was watching the documentary, you could see that she was a very healthy woman. Mm-hmm. You know, she had some weight on her. Mm-hmm. By the time she died, she was like a bag of bones. Yeah. Of course, this is said like same situation as the kids. I'm going to starve you. I'm going to put you out in this shed for days at a time. I'm going to beat you. I'm going to throw things at you. Any open wounds. Here goes the boiling water and the bleach. Yeah. Like at a certain point, like I guess for me, I kept when I was thinking of Kathy, where was he gives water? Oh, thanks. Shout out Fort Park Entertainment. Thank you, Park Water. We're not.
Yeah. Hey.
But that was one of the things that I appreciate you. That was one of the things that, I kind of had my frustrations with Kathy. I'm like, oh, you have the chance. Like, you're going. Yeah. Like, of course, those times that she forced her back into it, I can understand that. But like, when you're running away and you're like, nobody's forcing you back, I guess she just kind of, at times, was out there by herself and was like, where else do I have to go? Yeah. And so, like I said, when you feel that dependent upon somebody, even though she's starving you, you still know where your food is at, which is crazy.
And I agree with you. That dependency mindset, that where else do I go? Yeah. Who else is going to? Yeah, I'm taking abuse from here. But then, because to dive even deeper into that, there's a moment where she even throws her through a pane of glass. Yeah. And she's cut up, bleeding, lacerations, and she picks her up while telling her how much I'm sorry, how much I love you so much, like I'm so sorry, are you okay? Doctoring you up. Yeah. Imagine the trauma, like you confusing me. Yeah. You beat me down one moment, you call me all type of names, I'm bleeding, and then you pick me up and hold me tight, clean my wound. Like we never know what's gonna set you off. Yeah. But in those moments, in those loving moments, she's doing something. Like the narcissist that comes out of Shelly, I think is what really takes the other kid, it takes their minds. And of course with the daughters, they're like, well, she is my mother. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And Keith refers to that actually.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit you with we got a couple more questions, my guy. Really? This one, he asks, can you ever imagine yourself in a situation in which you are abused and don't speak up? Is it fair to the sisters who actually lived through such an ordeal when people tell them they should have left and told someone?
No, it's not fair for you to tell them that, because although as the person on the outside looking in and we're reading the story, we're banging on that third wall, we're banging on the invisible door, like say something, open your mouth, do something, run. Yeah. What are you doing?
You're at school, tell your counselors.
Exactly, but actually putting yourself in that person's shoes, you just really don't know. Yeah. You just really don't know, because the book constantly talks about how Sami, Tori, they were just so afraid of what their mom would do. They didn't want to say things, they didn't want to do things because they were like, she might, or I wonder what. Like even that's a hold on somebody.
Yeah. Because even the oldest daughter, Nikki, when Nikki had left when she was 20, she was able to run away and just kind of go live another life. There was a time when she came back and was talking to local authorities about Shelly, and she was like, hey, my mom has killed Kathy, and she's probably torturing him about to kill other people in that house.
Yep.
So then when the police of course go do a welfare check on the house, don't really find nothing, but they want to talk to to Nikki again. Yeah. Nikki's run off again. Yeah. She don't want to testify again because of her mother. And it's like, well, you're 20-something now, you're out of her physical grasp. But it's, again, like I said, it's just that psychological strap that she had on her that, ultimately she had on everybody in the house.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I know this sounds ridiculous, but it reminds me of like the Space Jam concept.
Listening.
Of how the Martians were so tiny and they were getting beat down by their boss and their oppressor. And then when they finally got the powers and they got super big and they were larger than life, they finally grown, but mentally they still feel like they're just this tiny little alien and they can still take it. Yeah. From this little, he's little now, I'm obviously I can overpower you, but you have my mind, and they don't realize that until somebody makes it known. But you do realize, like you're grown now. Yeah. You're bigger than them. You don't have to listen to them.
Well, it's all you know, man. And like that's the thing. These girls, like this was all they knew.
Yeah.
Like since birth, this woman was just my mother. Mm-hmm. But you become so. Like the abuse just becomes so second nature because even I think Sami was talking about this in part of the book when she was going through some of the torture, that mind just escaped into that happy place amid the torture.
Yeah.
So like you become so accustomed to this pain, or you become so accustomed to the process of it that you're able to just kind of just put your mind in another place and just see it through until mom can come back to being that loving mother that you kind of seen her on and off. I think that's, of course, it's just the psychological damage, bro. It leads me to the last question of the book, but then I have one more question after that. So, If You Tell is a character study of a dysfunctional family and three sisters survival. Which character do you have the most compassion for?
I'm gonna go for Nikki.
Okay.
I got the most compassion for Nikki because being the eldest, she was the first to take everything. So in a way, like you gotta think she knows. I know my younger siblings are watching me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I even have to be strong for them. You know what I'm saying? And then I don't know. There's something there. Like I don't know what it feels like to be the eldest, but there has to be something there. So Nikki probably, and because obviously deep into her 20s, she's still a simple phone call had Nikki shook.
Yeah.
Like all her mom had to do was call her, and Nikki would just be on the phone, frozen stiff.
Yeah.
Like that's the type of trauma that we're dealing with, and Nikki's gonna deal with that her whole life.
Yeah.
Even when it comes to Sami would speak up. Like even in the book, Sami, like her mom would fake cancer.
Yeah.
Her mom would say all type of stuff like this, and then Sami would just be like, "Mom, no, that's not true. No, I don't believe you." And so Sami had more of a voice, and she probably could, stick her chest out a little bit because she watched, so much happen to everybody else. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, and Tori just wanted she kind of just wanted to get away after a while. Yeah. Let me just be out of the way.
She had I don't even want to say privilege. She was fortunate enough to be the youngest child, which in the book was explained that she did not receive nearly half of the abuse that somebody like Nikki. Now again, the abuse she received again, her mother tried to poison her, so there was abuse definitely in the family, or definitely in her picture. But yeah, man, like I said, with me, the character I had the most compassion for, it wasn't any of the sisters. It was my boy Shane, who we were talking about
Shane.
earlier, man. I felt so bad for Shane. There's times, man, when, you know, I just look at certain people in their life, I'm like, damn, did you ever get any fair opportunity ever? Like, was there any time in any year of your life, or any day in your life, where the cards just fell in your favor? And I felt that Shane, that did not happen with him at all. Like, I felt like his entire life was just very unfortunate, from the discourse in his own intermediate family with his mom and dad, you know, with his mother ultimately dying and dad going to prison, you know, him being shipped around family to family from the east to the west coast, no real type of stability in his own very young life. And then again, you fall into this nightmare household when you're 13, and it was a prison for him. Because even he had run away a few times, and they had caught him every time he had run away. And again, I just felt so bad for him, because he too was, him and Nikki were around the same age, and they were like companions. And I did not cry reading this book because it was just too freaking crazy for me. But I felt so bad when I knew that Shane had died. And we come to find out that Uncle Dave walks up to Shane. This is later on. I think Shane was 19 when he was killed. Uncle Dave walks into him in the shed. Shane's sitting the opposite way. Uncle Dave takes it at 22 out and shoots him in the back of the head. And I'm like, you know, Dave was at this time his father figure. Like, he knew of no other father for real. Dad was in prison, seen him a couple times. I moved out here to Raymond, Washington. The home that I'm in is not even really my home. I'm tortured in it all the time. I'm abused. I'm seeing my cousins being abused. Like, no parental guidance that was here. And even when they brought another individual in, I believe his name was Ron. Ronald Woodward. And you see these adult figures come into the household as well, and they're receiving the same abuse. I'm trying to run away from this, and I'm still getting caught. Where's my good fortune? If I could get at least an ounce of it. And so that's ultimately, like, he was the character I felt the most compassion for, because at least the sisters were able to get an escape. You know what I mean? And so, like I said, I just felt so bad for Shane, man, because I was just like, man, you never got a fair shot in life, bro. You didn't. And so, yeah, that was who my character was.
I can agree with you. Now, you know, you've painted a great picture of Shane's point of view. Shane was even there, you know, when the first death, Kathy.
He was. Shelly had made Shane like kick and beat Kathy. I mean, again, it's one of those things, man. Quick little tangent. You ever see like a knockout video where somebody's knocked out and like they just fall on the ground, and the person who knocked them out usually doesn't jump on them because he understands, like, this person's done.
Yeah.
Shelly was the type of person like, no, keep kicking that person, keep punching them. Like, well, they're clearly knocked out. They're clearly not here. And that's what Shelly would have Shane and Dave do to Kathy. You know, this woman's clearly bleeding. She's clearly distraught. She's clearly unconscious. But no, pick up that rock and throw it. Yeah. Kick her. Like, just do these things. And it's like, just so much conflict, bro. Again, I hated reading this book. I absolutely hated reading this book. I would get so mad. And so, but yeah, bro, it leads me to my ultimate last question as we're wrapping this up, bro. If you could recommend this book to anybody else, I don't know why, but who would it be, bro?
I would recommend it to the storytellers, the movie writers.
Yeah.
We watch a lot of stories, and we watch a lot of movies where, if we were to be honest, the father in the home, or the stepfather, is monsterized.
Yeah.
That's the villain. That's the bad guy. We always see how the guy goes crazy or something like that. But here we are, where the mother, she is the villain. She is the main villain. She has manipulated everybody. She has mind control over everybody, torture, and then she comes out on the outside to everybody else in the neighborhood, and everybody just the sweetest thing. Oh, Shelly, and she's involved in the community. But in that house, you know, it is a horror story. They talk about the Knotek family, you know, the killings, and this was a true horror story. And so when I first came in, I would love for somebody to just go ahead and make this a movie. I know it has a documentary. I know it has X, Y, and Z, but
all this torture on camera for 2 hours, bro.
But I mean,
who's trying to sit through that, bro?
Or you can tweak it, to have a happy ending.
Ultimately it ends happier than anything in the book it had going on with it. I believe both Nikki and Sami get married.
Yeah.
Shelly gets 22 years. She actually got out last November.
Mm-hmm.
And Dave, yeah. And Dave got 15 years, and he got out back in the mid-2010 era. But yeah, it ends with, like I said, the book mainly focuses on sisterhood, and all three of those sisters are still close to this day, which just shows you, the power of siblings. I love my siblings. My brother is here right now. He hates everything about me at times. I know deep down he loves me dearly. Almost looping his truck yesterday. Crazy story. We'll talk about it off camera. But yeah, man, it's I would recommend this book to people who love true crimes, who are really into like those type of non-fictions. If you like serial killers and all those different types of weird things and criminal justice, this is definitely the book for you. Apparently that's Gregg's wheelhouse. Gregg Olsen author's wheelhouse.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
people will tell you about their stomach and how they don't want to see this, but they'll be the same people who stay up all night watching reruns of First 48 and late at night.
Yeah.
They're like 5 shows back to back, and they love it. They're sucked into it. The true crimes,
it's
the
crazy.
Snapped.
We were talking about this a little bit earlier, but yeah, man, like those country crimes, those crimes that aren't happening in the big city, like deep off in the woods, those joints be heinous, bro. Like 4 really. She had killed 4 people, or had at least 4 people killed. Yeah. Of course, we were talking about Kathy. Shane was down by the hands of Dave, even though Shelly had told Dave to kill Shane. Yeah. Ronald Whitworth. I want to say his name right because I RIP that guy. Ronald Woodworth. And then another guy, James McClintock, was somebody under the care of Shelly because Shelly was supposed to get his inheritance, but she was taking care of him. And then, he died of head trauma when he fell out of his wheelchair, which he was known to fall out of his wheelchair. He was 81, like I said. I was like, yeah, this woman is. I don't like the fact that she only got 22 years. She deserved life in prison. I don't know how the justice system factors in their sentencing. Yeah. I wish it was just kind of congruent across the board. But
just like today.
Yeah.
They basically said that it was hard for them to find the evidence to get her on first degree murder.
It's crazy.
With some of the they was like, we don't know. We did the autopsy on Ron.
Yeah.
We don't know. And so it was just like.
Because they ended up, for those in the book, a couple more spoilers, they ended up burning Kathy's body, ashes. I think, did they burn Shane's? I believe they did.
I believe so.
Burned their bodies. Dave took the ashes and was just, as he's going back and forth to work, just like letting the ashes out the window, go to the ocean and just spread them out. Just like at a certain point, again, when does the conscious tap in, just this is not right and I need to stop doing this? It apparently never tapped in for these guys. Like I said, they got their sentences even though they just got let out. Who knows if the correctional facility that they went in corrected them. Again, man, I feel like individuals like that deserve to spend the rest of their time, in those things.
And she still was in front of testifying and talking about, I don't think I deserve this.
So she did what was called an Alfred plea.
Yeah.
Which is it's I'm sure I'm gonna get correct on this, but the Alfred plea is admitting to a lesser degree crime than the actual crime that you're being charged for. So it's just kind of like, well, I did some things, I didn't do that.
Yeah, it's like weird, like I'm pleading guilty.
Yeah.
But I'm pleading innocence at the same time.
Yeah.
And it gives the jury a special. It's crazy.
Yeah, bro. So it's I appreciate you, man, for recommending this thing.
Yeah, man. I know you're a director, a damn good one. I know you're a storyteller just like myself. Yeah. And so jumping into a true crime story like this, I knew that would get the juices flowing.
Yeah.
especially the movie we did. And I said, man, this is right on the lines of where, you know what I'm saying?
Books like this definitely give me ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'm writing those dark characters. I'm like, what would the Knotek family do in this situation like
That's
this?
what, yeah, and you can tell the story.
Yeah, man. But yeah, you got anything else you wanna speak on the book, bro? Before we wrap it on up here, bro.
It's a good read, like I said, for those who want to dive out there and grab If You Tell. I audiobooked it for those of y'all who are into Audible, and I just put it in my ear, and I would be, I travel a lot when I work, so I'd be on the plane listening. I think I drove to Virginia not too long ago for Father's Day.
Yeah.
That's an 8-hour drive, so I really got into it for that drive.
I'm sure.
And man.
Like I said, this book just made me angry all the time, bro.
Yeah, it's gonna make you mad.
You need a little spiritual cleanse after reading this. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Cover2Cover Podcast. If you like this episode, I need you to like it, I need you to share, and I need you to subscribe. If you also want to see other episodes, you want to see other guests, just drop a comment down below, and we'll follow up with you. See you guys soon.